Okay, so welcome everybody to today's webinar, Beyond the Debrief. It is just the top of the hour, so we are going to give people just a moment to join us. So if you do want to say hello and let us know where you're joining us from, we would love to know that. So if you do want to say hello in the chat, let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be great. We'd love to see where you're joining us. We know that everybody's kind of running back to back, so we have a number of people registered. We're just going to give some people a minute to join us. But if you'd like to introduce yourself and just maybe say where you're joining us in the chat, that would be great. And let us know where you're joining us from. Hello from Louisiana. Hey, Jamie. Hello, Jamie from New Jersey. Good to see you. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're just introducing ourselves, people are letting us know where they're from. Erin is joining us from Louisiana. Hello, Travis from Kansas City. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. We're just giving everybody just a hot minute to join us. We know that some people are sometimes running from meeting to meeting, so we want to give everybody an opportunity to wrap up what they're doing and be able to join us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie Licata, and I am the Senior Learning Strategist at Cloverleaf. I also work as an independent practitioner, and my background's in organizational psychology, and I'm also an ICF certified coach, also certified at NYU. Excited to be here. Hello, Lynette from Franklin, Tennessee. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited for you to be here. If you're just joining us and you want to introduce yourself and let us know where you're tuning in from, we love to see a wonderful, diverse audience from many different places. So if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, we're just giving everyone a chance to get situated and join us. And then we'll get started in just a moment. So we are going to be using the chat today. If you do have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat. We do have Shelby from our marketing team who's in the background. And if for some reason I miss something in the chat, she can answer it or she can pitch it to me, and we will be happy to address any of your questions. We're going to get started just to honor your time. Some additional folks may join us, and we'll say hello to them as they join us as well. Our topic today is about beyond the debrief. How do we really begin to look at assessments and really turn them into scalable coaching or even training products? So many of you may perform different types of services. Maybe you do coaching, maybe you do training, maybe you do a combination of both, maybe you do some consulting, maybe you have projects that mix different types of services. So we're going to dive deep into how you can sort of take something that traditionally has been a little bit more focused on more of a debrief workshop, and how do we make it scalable? How do we create more of a dynamic service or integrate it into our existing services so that we can increase the impact of some of those insights that typically might get discussed sort of in a one and done workshop, and how do we increase the impact so we can really increase behavior change over time. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to first talk about the current assessment dilemma. So companies spend millions of dollars on assessments every year. And I work with many organizations across industry, and I will arrive at an organization and they'll be really into one assessment. Oh, we're really into DISC, we're really into Hogan, we're really into insights discovery, and every kind of organization will have their assessment that they love, right? But there is sometimes a dilemma, right, with how we keep those assessment insights alive and how we keep them working. So then we're going to talk about designing scalable coaching and training assessment products. And I'm going to share with you a framework for behavior change. So how can we take an assessment or take a collection of assessments and then really expand its impact in designing a product that also can create more of a relationship and more revenue for us as practitioners, right? Then I will show you a little bit about how I've designed some of my own products. So I am an independent practitioner, and I've been one for many, many years, almost, gosh, it's since 2007, right? I've been an independent practitioner, right? And I've grown over the years in understanding how to develop programs that are scalable, whether coaching or training or consulting products and programs. So I'm going to share with you some program design where I've integrated assessments in a scalable way. So I'll share with you that. And then we'll talk about pricing and positioning for value, right? So look, we don't turn down business as an entrepreneur. We, in the beginning of our business, we don't turn down business. Then we start to learn what business we should turn down, right? Is that worth our time? Is that something that's scalable for us? Is that something we're interested in doing? Is that somebody we're interested in doing business with? It's not always, right? But we want to try to price and position some of these products for true value, but also for extending impactful business relationships. Now, we're going to show you a little Cloverleaf secret, and we'll give you a Cloverleaf sneak peek. You don't have to be an assessment expert in our world. So Cloverleaf gives you the freedom to not have to get certified in 10 assessments to be able to use some of our tools. So you don't have to go to a $7,000 4-day program and be exhausted to be able to use our platform. Now, it does not mean we're saying you shouldn't be knowledgeable. It's just that there are other ways to use assessments rather than be deeply certified in all of them in order to use them. And so we'll show you a little bit about what that means, right? And then I will share with you another case study from assessment workshop to ongoing revenue. So if you get called on to do a DISC workshop, do an MBTI workshop, do an insights discovery workshop, if you get called on to do a workshop, how do you take that and create more opportunity from it, right? How do you take that and make it more real, right? All right. So and then of course, throughout the webinar, I will ask for input and ask for some of your questions. But if you were a small group here, if you have questions, if you have insights, you have ideas, pop it in the chat. Don't be afraid. You can interrupt me. You can throw something in the chat. It's totally okay. I don't want you to feel like you have to hold something back. And I'm flexible. I can stop and go. And so as you're going, I want you to also be thinking, what does this mean for my business? What does this mean for my practice? How can I incorporate some of what I do, okay? How can I incorporate some of this into some of what I do, right? Okay, so first we want to know a little bit about you and about how you identify as a practitioner. So Shelby's going to share a poll and just how do you, if you were to name what you would call yourself, would you call yourself an executive coach, a team coach, a leadership development consultant, an organizational development consultant, or an independent trainer or facilitator, or something else? What's the word you would best use to describe what you do? Now, if you did say other, if you wouldn't mind popping it in the chat just so that we can know a little bit more about what you do, that would help us, just because we want to make sure that we're speaking directly to the people that are here. So we have a variety of folks with us. So if you don't feel that your title was represented, maybe you're a fractional HR consultant. If you don't feel that your title was represented here, okay, HR business partner, great, thank you. If you don't feel your title was represented here, just pop it in the chat. Let us know a little bit about, okay, so independent leadership partner, HR consultant and coach, marketing consultant. Okay, good. Okay, so some of you doing more consultant work. Okay, business coach. Okay, good. Excellent. So we've got a really good mix here. So Shelby, if you would share just the results of the poll. So we have some executive coaches, we have a leadership development consultant, we have an organizational development consultant, we have some independent trainers, we also have some business coaches, some HR consultants, some independent leadership partners, also a business coach. We have a lot of different practitioners here. This is a really diverse group. Excellent. Okay, thank you. So great. So everything I'm saying, this can apply, again, everything I'm going to be talking about today can apply across a broad practitioner type. Now, I've done everything from career coaching to business coaching. I work with coaches and consultants to expand their business, right? I've done everything from leadership development training to team coaching, to one-on-one executive coaching, to organizational design, to organizational development, to designing onboarding programs and performance processes. I've worked with HR departments that are new in organizations to stand up people processes. So every person, I've worked in M&A, right? So I've helped set up an automotive M&A organization from the ground up. So everybody that's represented here, I have done a little bit of everything here. And I started my career in marketing, right? So Jamie, I've got you. All right. So I'll try to speak to and cater to everybody that's here today and make everybody feel heard. Okay. So we're going to also throw in some stats. We all know that stats are interesting and sometimes they're useful and sometimes they're not, but just to humor us a little bit. So ATD, our friends at ATD, according to a recent survey, 2024, only 18% of organizations say they fully leverage assessment data after the initial debrief. Now, yes, even if the debrief is done by one of us or an external practitioner. Now, sometimes I've worked with organizations. So I worked with an organization that was really heavy into insights discovery. And they had a lot of really great people who were trained in insights, and they had awesome facilitators. They were like outliers. They were so great at it. Everybody talked in colors. They were amazing, right? They were really great. Okay. And I worked with some organizations that have external people come in and they do external workshops on DISC and Enneagram and all kinds of things. So let's just say, we're going to say this is sometimes the case. So if this is sometimes the case, right, why do you think that is? Pop it in the chat. Why do you think it is? What do you think is the cause of it? Why do you think it's hard to leverage the assessment data after the debrief? You tell me. Pop it in the chat. Why? Why is it hard to take the data, right? It takes work, right? I want to make sure I say your name correct. Is it Shauna? You could tell me, or you can emphatically spell it in the chat, Shauna. Fatigue, right? Right? It's like, what am I going to do with this giant report? I'm going to lift it around, right? Or just fatigue of like, I'm too tired to take this information. I've got so much work to do. It's like, oh, Hana. Okay, good. Hanukkah, like Hanukkah. Oh, excellent. Thank you. Hana. Beautiful, beautiful name, Hana. They don't know what to do with the data, right? Laura, what am I supposed to do with it? Am I supposed to walk around with this report and am I supposed to do with it? There's no clear path, right? So Melissa said there's no clear path. How do I use the data? What, it's not telling me what to do. Okay, Travis, excellent. It's not part of the vision or the business plan. It's not connecting to something. And it's not being woven into any kind of strategy. Like the organization isn't saying, okay, we're making this focus, X, and here's how you use it. Okay. Excellent. Oh, hi, Jacqueline. Good to see you here. Jacqueline said sometimes companies just are checking the box. Oh, we need to have a workshop. Everybody come take this assessment. Here's some edutainment, right? Sometimes companies do try to hire me for edutainment. Now, you can make a lot of money showing up for a day. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I say yes. But when people have the expectation that that edutainment workshop will cause any kind of behavior change, I am very clear to tell them that it won't. It will not. It's not going to. A one-day workshop on anything is not going to cause any kind of leadership behavior change. It could be absolutely interesting. It could be fun. It could be what your leaders need for release. It could be what your teams need to bond. It's absolutely not going to cause any kind of organizational or leadership change. It will cause insights. It will cause popcorn moments. It'll be a nice memory. You'll have a great picture to put on the team intranet. It's not going to cause any kind of lasting change. Okay. So what do we got to do? So we have a core dilemma. Assessments don't create change. Okay. Behavior creates change. Repetitive behavior creates change. So we have some more nuggets for you. This is according to Forbes. 80% of HR leaders say their biggest challenge after the workshop is, what do? How do we keep momentum, right? That's because workshops don't solve problems, okay? Workshops are time for people to come together. They can ignite something, but there has to be some kind of follow-up, right? So that's why when I do get brought in for any kind of leadership work, I will not, when people ask me to work with leadership, I will not sell them a workshop. I say workshop can be part of it, but we've got to do something else. So that's not going to solve it, right? Now, Gardner said 2023 employees are 3.5 times more likely to demonstrate more skills when the learning comes within their workday, okay? Compared to when I take them away from my learning, from their work, and make them learn. Now, this may be counterintuitive. I'm a trainer, get paid to train. What do you mean? Now, when someone gets pulled out for a 2-day training, what's the first thing they do? What happens when they go back to work? What's the first thing they're thinking of? Pop it in the chat. When they go back to their desk, when they go back to their computer, what's the first thing on their mind? Pop it in the chat. They leave the training. Yep, catching up on emails. You got it. They're not thinking, how do I apply what I learned? They are being chased by the mountain of the emails. They are now being chased by the mountain of the requests of how do I catch up on the past 2 days when I have been out at a 2-day workshop. So the last thing I'm thinking of is, how do I use my new skills? Because you just took me away from my job for 2 days. Okay. So I'm more likely to take action on something if you gave me something digestible and you didn't take me away from my work. Now, I'm not saying never have another workshop. Not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm more likely to take the action if I have learning incorporated into my day. So more research from ATD. 1 in 5 L&D initiatives lead to sustained performance change when, I say only 1 in 5, when the follow-up mechanism is not there. Okay. If the follow-up mechanism isn't there, we have a problem. So Laura just shared a great assessment. Assessments create the awareness and clarity, but the leaders, right? The organizational leaders must create a culture of learning and change, right? Awesome. So the assessment is the spark, but what do we do? But the problem is the organizations are literally lighting the money on fire, paying for all the assessments, paying for the workshop facilitator, but then they're not implementing the thing to take the awareness and moving it into action and moving it into behavior. So they're investing literally millions of dollars every year into the assessment, into the workshop facilitator, and they're not seeing any return on it. Okay. But they're like, oh, we do insights, we do this, we do this, but we have no return. Okay. Yes, and we do need to hold employees accountable. Absolutely, Jacqueline, 100%. And she said, yes, that could involve making it part of their goals, 100%. So we do need to, but we can't hold them accountable for that which we do not train them on, right? So we can't say, throw them in a workshop and now hold them accountable for something that we don't have a system to support them in. So we've got to build the system first, and then we can hold them accountable for the mechanism which we provide. And so once we have that thing that allows them to learn and grow beyond the workshop, then we can hold them accountable. But we've got to have those the embedding first. And if we don't do the embedding first, then we can't hold them accountable for something that we didn't build, right? So we've got to have that accountability has to be matched with the constructs that we build, right? But great insights, everybody. Okay, so I'll share with you my DISC dilemma. So prior to me, so just so you know, I am not in sales for Cloverleaf. I was found by Cloverleaf on LinkedIn on a cold reach out. I am a practitioner who uses Cloverleaf in my own business, and then I subcontract for 2 consulting firms. And I went to those consulting firms, and I'm like, hey, we should use Cloverleaf in our work, and we now use Cloverleaf with our projects. And so prior to discovering Cloverleaf in one of these firms, this is several years ago, I was working with a hospitality organization and doing a year-long middle management development project. And I was doing DISC and give everybody DISC. And here was my DISC dilemma. Now, I understand that there are tools available now with DISC and they're different, but it was me, my spreadsheet, and I, right? And I remember I was traveling to the middle of the country, and I was traveling to this hospitality organization, and I was like trying to memorize everybody's DISC types of the participant in the leadership program. And I had sent everybody their link for their report, and I had trying to memorize all their DISC types, and I was trying to also having them put their DISC type on their desk and their office door. I would also try to, for certain activities, put together mixed DISC breakout groups, and I would also try to have them represent their work styles and communication styles. All right, so who can relate to some of this? Who can relate to trying to get all the people where they need to be with their DISC styles or their 16 type styles? Like, who can relate to trying to get all the people and their types where they need to be? Anyone can relate to that. Brent Brent has raised his hand. Brent, do you want to share? Because I know that you always have a good story to share. Who can relate to that? Brent, I'm going to allow you to talk. You want to unmute? I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm traveling. I don't know. Will you be able to hear me? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think there's always mixed results. So one client that I work with, one company, the leader had everybody's information posted in their office and her information posted on the door, and that was great. But there was only about 20% of the people that were really into it, really just get caught up in day-to-day business and whatever they have to do. So inconsistent results for sure.
Yeah, because you don't really remember at the end of the day, like, what does that mean that they're an ID? Like, it's a good effort, but it doesn't always yield a result.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brent. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so people do all of these things. So I remember also, I was in a large global matrix organization. I was in an L&D role, and we did insights. And I remember they had us put the color on the door, and then for like a month, they had us put the color on those little sheets that we did our one-on-ones with. And I was like, and then we did it for a month, and then we never did it again. So it was like, okay, there was this attempt, but then it went away. Okay. So how can we, if we want to use assessments, now I'm going to show you with Cloverleaf how you don't need to be certified in all of these assessments to use it. So I know that that's the world you live in right now, which is, if I'm not certified, I can't use an assessment. I want you to suspend that belief for me for a minute. Okay, so just suspend the belief for a minute. We'll come back to it. Okay, I get that that's the universe right now, but just to suspend it for a minute. And we're going to talk about designing scalable coaching and training products. If you're a consultant, I want you to consider that if you're doing any kind of culture change product, if you are a business coach and you are working with a new startup and you're trying to help shift the culture or help the organization even start to create a culture. I want you to consider that anything you do to create, to sustain, to create team, to create atmosphere, to create content, right, that is trying to evoke change, transformation, that is trying to create team norms or create foundational practices for an organization. You don't have to fit in the coaching or training bucket to do this, okay? If you're just trying to create any shared language across an organization, okay, no matter what you're doing, no matter what service you're delivering, okay? The first thing, this is a 3-part framework, and we will share this information. We will share these slides, so not to worry, okay? In our follow-up, we'll make sure that you get these slides. Okay, so the first thing is, the biggest early win with assessments is the shared language. So whether or not you're doing DISC or Enneagram, your clients suddenly have a framework, right? So they talk in the framework, they talk in the result, the color, whatever it is. And they talk about it amongst themselves. And there's a shared language, there's a lack of judgment. There's a familiarity. So think of a time when a client had a breakthrough just from understanding another teammate's style or type. So think about maybe when you did any kind of assessment. Maybe it's you administered the assessment, or maybe it's an assessment you took, okay? What's sort of a phrase or insight from an assessment that became sticky in your client's culture? So if you can think about that, if you were working with a client, what became sticky? Like what stuck in that assessment, or what insight, or what sort of phrase, insight or language, what became sticky with the client when you were working with that client? You can even just share in the chat what became sticky when you were working with that client. You can share the assessment and maybe even just share what shifted because it stuck. What's a phrase or an insight from an assessment that became sticky in a client's culture when you were working with them? It could be any assessment. And they maybe had a breakthrough just from understanding because it stuck. And maybe it was you who took the assessment. It was an organization you were in. Okay, Hannah shared processing speed became sticky because there were so many opportunities to connect with the concept. So Hannah, if you don't mind me sharing, if you mind sharing, what assessment was that related to? Oh, Myers-Briggs. Okay, got it. Excellent. Awesome. So Travis shared working genius, leader needed activated in meetings. So working genius is assessment. Owner realized that they needed to lead differently in order to get the most out of different working genius. Okay, good. So it was an insight. It was like a light bulb moment, it sounds like Travis is sharing. Okay, good. Excellent. Right. So something became sticky because it caused an aha moment, right? So sometimes there is something that ignites an insight for someone and it does cause an immediate shift. Excellent. So we want to be able to educate, right? So we want to use assessments to create this shared language for teams, for managers, for clients. This creates somewhere to stay, somewhere to land. This creates that ongoing work, whether we're doing, again, culture creation, we're doing leadership development, we're doing team development, we're doing, again, we're trying to help someone enrich their business. We're trying to create that shared language. We're trying to create that piece where people can come together. So when I was talking about that organization that was really good at insights, they would speak the color. Oh, they're being really red. Oh, I'm very blue. Like they would have it in their language where they recognize the behavior and associate it with the color all the time. Or sometimes I'm working with organizations that are really into DISC and they will know, oh, you got to give that PowerPoint to the C before it goes out the door. Like they will know, oh, the C is going to notice whatever it is, right? So they will really know the types very well to be able to say what the strengths are, the strong points. So you want to create the education. There is value to the workshop. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying workshops are bad. I'm just saying they are not the be all end all. They're the beginning, right? So the shared language is powerful, but the language needs the application. And that brings us to the next step. We've got to go to embed. So ongoing bite-sized coaches, nudging, reminders, contextual insights, keep the assessment alive in the flow of work, not just training, right? So if your client only revisits their DISC or MBTI results when they open up a PDF, that's not going to create value, right? So we have to embed the insight into tools they already use, because they're opening up their email, they're opening up Teams, they're opening up Slack, they're opening up their calendar. So you've got to then ask yourself where your client spends most of their time. We know those answers. I just said them. So now imagine what would happen if their assessment insights showed up right there before a meeting, during a team check-in. Okay. So I'm going to ask you this, pop it in the chat. What's one moment in a client's work week, okay, where a contextual nudge that came from an assessment result could change a behavior or decision? What type of interaction would an assessment insight help them the most, right? So what type of interaction, if you think about the clients you work with, what type of interaction, if they got an assessment nudge, an insight from an assessment about a behavior, a strength, what type of interaction would be most useful for them to get that nudge right before? So pop it in the chat, given your specific clients, if they got an assessment nudge right before that interaction, what would that interaction be if they got it right before? So it would be helpful before a sales meeting, before a weekly project review. Okay, great. What else? For a level 10 or leadership meeting, I've got my EOS people. See, I got you, Travis. Before a team stand-up. Meetings with their team, how they communicate goals and performance. Back and showed when deciding whether to call or email someone on their team, thinking about the person's communication or DISC style. Okay, great. So how should I communicate with this person? Excellent, Melissa, before I deliver difficult feedback. Great. Awesome. So these are all moments, right? Nothing dramatic. These are all everyday moments where it would make a difference. We want to embed in the everyday moments. Right? So, and then once the insights are in motion, they can do something really powerful. They can adapt, they can shift, which leads us to evolve. Assessment data isn't static. So in the workshop, assessment data, okay, I'm going to be dramatic here. I'm Italian. Assessment data dies in the workshop, right? It dies, a slow death, right? Because what happens if there's no follow-up? Now, I'm Gen X, we still print things out sometimes. 2 years later, you find the report and you throw it out. And you're like, oh, that was an interesting workshop I went through 2 years ago, right? And you throw it out, okay? So a one-time assessment debrief just gives you the snapshot. It gives you the story, and the story doesn't always tell you where to go next, right? So you really want to be able to then evolve on a regular basis, right? You want to be able to adapt leadership sprints based on a strengths-based assessment. You want to be able to create quarterly check-ins based on certain DISC behavioral combinations, like Jacqueline was pointing out. How do I want to do those check-ins based upon how that person communicates? You want to be able to use Enneagram results to customize how you're going to address conflict situations. You know, Enneagram is based on our values, and maybe I might have to address conflict differently based on my Enneagram assessment. So we want to be able to, again, embed. And as we embed, we then help the people evolve because they've taken those specific actions over time, and they've now, like you've said, they've now been able to adapt before these critical moments that happen. Now, all of these moments that you just put in the chat, they all represent opportunities to have meaningful interaction. So I think it was around this time last year, Gallup published all of this data on their LinkedIn about all this research they did around meaningful interactions. And they wrote an article about how one of the most important things that a leader needs to do is have meaningful interactions. And they surveyed all these leaders, and all these leaders said they were having so many meaningful interactions and conversations with people. Well, when they interviewed the employees reported far less meaningful interactions than the leaders. So the leader's assessment of how meaningful their interactions were was far more inflated than what the employee was experiencing. And so the way the interaction becomes meaningful is customization. Now, here's what I'm going to show you about customization. And I'm going to share with you a case study and how I used assessment nudges to transform my training program. Okay. So one of my signature programs is a coaching skills for leaders program that I distribute through consulting firms. So this case study is transforming teams with coaching skills and assessment nudges. And so I've delivered this program for the past 8 years. It is industry agnostic. I've distributed it to hospitality, finance, marketing, nonprofit, ministry, like anybody you can possibly think of. It is teaching leaders the art and skill of coaching. And it's done in a very specific skill-based drip way. I don't take people for a whole day, right? It is small skill stacking, small virtual instructor-led skill stacking in the flow of work. So I don't take them for more than an hour every 2 weeks, virtual, so that they're not being pulled away. I recently just literally certified. So it's a certification. It's an internal certification. It's not, they don't get certified like by the ICF. It's like if you're from company ABC, you become a company ABC certified internal coach, like an internal badge of honor. And so I recently just finished a 2-year initiative where I worked with over 200 leaders in a hospitality organization. It was 2 years, 5 cohorts of 40 to 50 leaders. And it started with the senior leaders and went all the way down. I just finished like the group of supervisors. 6 months long. It did start with a workshop, okay, but it was 2.5 hours. It was small. So it was 2.5 hours. It started with a live on-site workshop where I did get to meet everybody. And then it was every other week for 60 minutes on Zoom. That was it. Everything was recorded. If you missed a session, you could get it. And so I was teaching them a skill. Now, here's the thing. I'm training them in active listening, but I can train you on how to do active listening. But similar to and I'm going to go back to Jacqueline because it's such a good comment, is I can't train you exactly how to communicate in the style of the person on your team. So what happened was all of the people on their team had taken their assessments and they were getting nudges in exactly how to communicate with the people on their team. So I taught them the skill of how to do active listening. And then they got the nudge in their email of how to communicate with Sue. Okay, now I got the customization. So I taught them the skill, and they got the customization from the assessment nudge. Okay, so it was the combination. It helped really boost it. So they learned and practiced coaching skills, and then they got the assessment nudges, and they took assessments like DISC or 16 types, which is Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, bias strengths, energy rhythm, and culture pulse and motivating values, which are assessments unique to Cloverleaf. And I asked them, tell me how impactful the assessment nudges that you got to your email or through your calendar. So they were delivered in the flow of work. Tell me what happened. What was the result of you getting those assessment nudges? And they said they had greater confidence in navigating conflict because it would tell them, this is how this person likes to receive feedback. This is how this person might react in conflict. This is how this person's strength. Here's how to leverage it. Okay. And it was from the data from those person's assessments. Because not only are you not going to walk around with your PDF, but you're certainly not going to walk around with the PDFs of all your team members, right? So now I've got the little nudge in my email about my team member too. It said they tackled tough conversations that they previously avoided because they got insights about the people in their team from those assessment results. It empowered, and they were empowered, and they listened to their teams more effectively, right? And it helped them build deeper trust and stronger team dynamics. So by getting those nudges during the program, as I was teaching them the skill, this is what the assessment nudges helped them. So this was a compilation of what they reported back. Okay, any questions at all about what I shared and how I integrated these assessment nudges? I'm going to share you how I did it in a minute, and what I did in terms of Cloverleaf. But any questions just about this style of integration? Any questions? We're a little stuck on the slide. Okay, so you want to also price and position for ongoing value. And this, when you also think about beyond the debrief, you want to shift the conversation from here's a 90-minute session or here's a 90-minute workshop to here's 90 days of embedded growth. And that's also when you, part of what Cloverleaf's value is that you get to extend the relationship and extend the conversation. And you can also, and I'll show you this in a minute, you can also price for transformation, not just time. By the way, I never charge by the hour. I don't charge by the session. I don't do any of that. I charge for the value I provide. So you can offer tiers, right? So the model is about building consistency and helping teams stay aligned and accountable as they grow. So you want to think about it as an ongoing coaching, training, consulting rhythm, not a one-time intervention. You don't always have to start with a cohort experience like I did in my last example. It's just an example. There's no one right way to do any of this. You might be working with intact teams like project, a functional team, or leadership teams. You might be working with fast scaling departments or navigating rapid change if you're working with startups. Maybe you're working with an executive team looking for an external sounding board or culture alignment. So you want to, this is, great for clients maybe who don't need full training programs, but they want a consistent high trust space for growth and reflection and calibration, right? So you want to be able to create tiers. Maybe they want some self-guided content and then some assessment insights. Maybe you want to provide some group coaching or group consulting and some team-based development. You can layer in, if you're doing some consulting, you can layer in one-on-one coaching as a premium option. But you want to position yourself as a long-term development partner and not a transactional vendor. And so I'm going to share with you, I'm going to show you the visual of Cloverleaf that's going to give you the great news that with Cloverleaf, you don't need to be an assessment expert. So I'll share with you exactly what I gave the participants in that program, what they were actually doing and receiving while they were learning those skills. So imagine you were coaching someone one-on-one. Imagine you were training a group of people in a leadership program. Imagine you were working with a business owner. Imagine you were working with an organization or you were developing leaders in a leadership program. Whatever service you were delivering. Part of what Cloverleaf does is it combines multiple assessments, okay? So when you were, looking at an individual assessment, one assessment is a very narrow view of somebody. So for example, 16 types, which is Myers-Briggs. It was designed in the fields of psychology. It's all about personal preference, okay? DISC was designed in the early stages of IO psychology. It was actually designed to look at observable behavior in work teams, okay? It was designed for the workplace. Right? Something like Enneagram is about our values and our core values and how that impacts how we see the world and how that impacts what's important to us and how we show up at work, right? How we show up in the world and how that impacts our work, our conflict style, all of that, right? We have other assessments like VIA strengths and our top 5 strengths and what that looks like. We have culture pulse and motivating values, which are assessments that we've designed. We have our energy rhythm assessment, which helps understand what are the different times of day that we're actually best to work on certain tasks, Okay. We have instinctive drives, which helps identify certain drivers on what we use or avoid, and certain motivators that we will use during our work and as an individual and a team. Okay. Now, from these assessments, now here's the thing, the assessments is not what the main show is. The assessments is the fuel that makes Cloverleaf go. So if you got a brand new shiny red Corvette today, you would not brag about the gas. You would brag about how fast it went. You would brag about how quickly it accelerates. You would brag about the great shiny red new paint. The assessments are just the fuel. Here's the functionality, and here's where the magic is. Okay. So when people take the assessment, they get to say how they want to develop themselves. So when they actually first sign on to Cloverleaf in your account, okay, they get to say where they want to focus. So if you're working with a one-on-one client, if you're working with a group of people, everybody gets their own unique private account, and they get to say, hey, you know what? I'm a leader and I need to focus on developing leadership on my team. My coaching focus is developing leaders. Or I have high friction on my team right now. My coaching focus is managing conflict. So what I'm telling Cloverleaf is I want you to give me more assessment nudges that will help me in that area. And I can come back and change this at any time. So every single client of yours gets to say where they want to be developed. Okay. So once they do that, all of the assessments have what we call assessment nudges or coaching insights that are attached to them. So every time you take a new assessment, you get a new batch of coaching insights or coaching tips put into your tip bank. And you'll get an email sent to you each day that has a coaching tip. And so a coaching tip looks like this. And you'll notice this little bullseye. It's telling me that the coaching tip is associated with the area that I said I wanted to be coached. So this coaching tip is for Reese. This is our demo account. You likely consider both personal gain and collaborative success when you approach tasks and projects, tending to weigh the opportunities for recognition while also valuing teamwork. While also valuing teamwork may balance your leadership. This approach can blend practical results and collective advancement, benefiting both yourself and your team. Now it asks a coaching question. Reflect on a recent project. How did balancing personal gain with team success impact the outcome? I might say, well, during project X, I made sure to take care of my priorities while looking out for my team's well-being. Now, maybe this is just me acknowledging a strength of mine, but I also will get a tip about my team member. Riley enjoys learning technical skills and thrives in environments that have quickly changing technologies or regulations. Let's say Riley is new to my team and I'm now learning something about him. Oh, wow, you know what? I learned something. This is great. What did you discover about Riley's learning style and how might this shape future interactions? You know what? I am going to ask Riley to join project Y, right? Now, maybe Riley wants to be involved in this. And now I might say, I'm going to hashtag this one-on-one. I'm going to bring this up in our one-on-one. And I'm going to finish this. This is private to me. This is my private coaching journal. If I go back here to my reflections, I can say one-on-one, and this will bring up here. And if he says yes, I can edit this and I can say contact Sue and add Riley to meeting cadence. And this can be my little notebook here, right? Okay, so this is a place where, again, I'm not walking around with Riley's report from his assessments, and I don't need to know about all the assessments. This is giving me a little tip. It's reminding me about Riley's strength. It's reminding me to reach out and get Riley involved in a project, okay? And maybe I didn't know that about Riley. And Riley says, great, yeah, hey, I read this about you on Cloverleaf. Is this are you interested in this? Yeah, absolutely. I actually am. Great. I'm learning something new about Riley. How impactful is that? Great. This is saved. It's all private to me. It's completely saved. Now, someone shared earlier when I asked you what would want to be one of the moments that it might be helpful if you got a nudge, you can actually pull the nudges towards you. Let's say I do have to give difficult feedback to somebody. I can go in here and say, how can I give feedback to Noor? So this is not Instagram. Nobody knows you're looking. How can I give feedback to Noor? Okay, so it's going to give me several tips about Noor. Now, these tips are written by our assessment experts. Okay, so these tips are written by our internal assessment experts, but it's going to use AI to summarize the tips and tell me how I can approach it. Okay, so this is telling me to give feedback to Noor, try delivering in a positive, respectful tone. It's telling me to use the sandwich technique. So I don't know if you remember, some articles came out recently in the past 2 years. Oh, the sandwich technique's outdated. No, it's actually not outdated. You just shouldn't use it with everybody. You should know when to use it. Okay, so it's actually telling us with Noor that I should sandwich it, any critical feedback in between some positive feedback. So it's telling me to use the positive and negative positive feedback structure and highlight some appreciation. Now, I can also read through these individual tips if I want more tips, but it's giving me an agenda and an approach. Now, I will tell you, I use this often, and it's pretty much dead on, right, when I'm working with team members. Now, sometimes I'm working with coaching clients and they'll say, oh, I don't know, I have to have a conversation with Noor. And I'm like, let's just go right to the Cloverleaf dashboard. And every coaching client that I have, now imagine you're coaching a leader and they start saying, I can't talk to Noor, I don't know what to do. Imagine having all of your leaders' team on this platform. You will have so much more insight and be able to coach your leaders so much more effectively. I have literally sat and listened to a drama story about a person, and I just say, oh, let's just look at Cloverleaf and see what's actually going on. Because there's also a team functionality here. You can actually see all of the team results. And they can also, they can get full reports. You can download a report for 16 types, Enneagram, DISC, and all of that. Okay. But I will sometimes, I've had situations where I'm coaching somebody and they'll say, oh, I can't deal with this person. This happened, that happened. I'm like, okay, let's just look at your Enneagram side by side. So if you look at Enneagram, it says source of conflict, reaction to conflict. And I will say, let's just read this. And it will interrupt the drama and the details, and we'll start to get to visioning and planning. We'll start to get solution oriented. And so I have all of my coaching clients put their teams on here, and they now are elevated. I can get so much farther faster. I can have a leadership coachee get so much farther faster when their teams are on here, when they have the insights about how to work with their people, how to speak to their people, how to recognize their people, how to leverage their people. And I can get more insight in how to develop them and how to guide them and how to have better conversations with them. So it can interrupt all of the negativity, and they can just sit here and say, okay, Noor and Quinn can resolve conflicts by remaining self-aware and connected with their true selves so that the admiration and appreciation needed can be given. So I'll say, from reading this, what do you see as the next step with Noor? And I get so much clearer in those conversations, right? So now imagine integrating this into coaching, training, consulting, and you don't have to do anything. You could just say, okay, I would like you to do your Cloverleaf reflections twice a week. You don't have to create content. You can just assign that. You don't have to do anything. You also, when you have a meeting with someone, you will get an insight about who you're meeting with. You will also get a temporary dashboard made with whoever you're meeting with. You will see their 16 types. You will see their DISC type. You can click on them. You can see their every score in their DISC type. You can go to their profile. Right? You can go, and if you're preparing a conversation with them, you can understand a little bit more about them and go and view their profile. You also can see different coaching tips about them based upon their information and say, what are their conflict triggers? What is their communication style? Right? You can ask your own coaching questions. What motivates me when I feel stuck? Right? So again, this is all automated coaching, but it's not a replacement for you. Right? So this is all embedded as an extra cylinder to your services. So we might have a fear, will this feel robotic? No, this assessment data is to personalize support, not to generalize it. It's to customize, it's personalized to the person based upon their results. Am I just automating my value? No, it's not. It's to reinforce. It's not to replace the relational work. So I love it because in between a training session or a coaching session or a consulting meeting, they're getting the email each day. They're getting the nudge. They can incorporate it into Teams, Slack, into all their tools. It's keeping the learning, the goals, the training top of mind. So big bag technology is not going to replace us, no matter what Bill Gates said. It's not going to replace us. Don't worry. I'll also share another case study. This is another partner that I work with, but this is how we integrated Cloverleaf into a disc workshop for a local Chamber of Commerce leadership program. 25 leaders, all in the program. We gave all the participants from 25 different companies 6 months of Cloverleaf access. We followed up with a monthly leadership newsletter and 2 virtual webinars. We expanded, so we gave them discs to start, and then we gave them additional assessments like Enneagram and 16 types. We trained everybody to add and coach their own teams using Cloverleaf. So we had those 25 leaders on, and then we said, hey, add your teams. And we positioned it as the go-to development partner across the chamber and all the organizations. So as a result, we have signed a keynote speaking contract. So we had someone that came to the program. They did our disc workshop. Somebody else hired us to do a keynote contract. The chamber, we gave them access, and they actually contracted with us to use Cloverleaf for their chamber leadership team. And we also have a proposal out for a multi-session leadership training series. So we used it as a lever to, as a business development lever, and we just gave it as a gift to all of these people. And we're building a long-term pipeline through referral and embedded value. So it was just like, hey, we're going to give you this gift. We embed it into pricing. We don't like line item it. There's no more line item assessment per report per person. There's no more line item. You just embed it into everything. And so it's a great business development opportunity. There's a feature where you can give people a trial of it. It's just an incredible opportunity. I've been using it in my business for the past 5 years, and it has revolutionized my entire business. So any ideas this has sparked about your practice or any questions that you have? I know I've shared a lot of information. If you want to pop in the chat, ideas that it sparked or questions that you have. Ideas that it sparked or questions that you have. Yes, it is awesome for 100% remote team. It can build a lot of trust and connection. It's so important. Imagine being able to just even just some of these Enneagram insights are super great. You can look and see these Enneagrams are decision-making triads. You can see, imagine being new to a team, being 100% remote, and you can see some strengths, blind spots. If you're not like this person, here's what you can do. There's so much you can search. You can build a lot of trust, build a lot of connection. There's also a cool dashboard builder where you can if you have a sub team of people, you can just start building a sub team. You can just say, oh, I want to build these 3 people. I have to work on a project with these 3 people and we're all remote. How are we going to get along together? And you can just throw them all on this dashboard and create this little sub team and see what it looks like and how we'll all get along, right? Awesome, great. So thank you so much. Reminder to incorporate and highlight coaching proposals, the value and importance of ongoing coaching after the workshops and training. Excellent. Great. Great. Yes, stop. Yes, go. No more hourly. Yes, I say, look, I'm not a babysitter. I'm not, no offense to babysitting. I was a babysitter. I do not get paid by the hour. Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for being here. Any other questions that you have? right. All right, well, we're just at the top of the hour. We will follow up with a recording and the slides. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. But thank you so much for being here, and we will see you soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.